What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are we doing? John Middlekauff, 3 and Out podcast. Not ideal lighting, less than ideal microphone situation here. I forgot something extremely important. My traveling operation is held together by a thing called a Zoom recorder that plugs in my microphone to my computer, and I left it on my desk. And there's just no way. One, they've come out with different models since. It wouldn't be here for a couple days. And it wasn't going to happen. So I had to ad-lib and get this USB mic. So the audio quality is not great. But I had to record a couple mailbag here for business purposes. So I apologize for forcing you to sit through this quality because I pride myself on good audio quality, especially someone who listens to podcasts. Like if you have bad audio quality, I'm out. So I screwed up. There's no way around it. And we'll just have to battle through. And I'll be back here end of next week potentially because I don't know if I can do podcasts even from Lake Tahoe with this microphone. It's just too terrible. It's an embarrassment. And it's an embarrassment that I caused. So it's like I'm a football coach at my press conference saying, put this on my shoulders, put this on my back. But before we dive into any mailbag, at John Middlekauff is the Instagram. You guys know the drill. Fire in those DMs. I got to tell you about my friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime. Best ticketing app in America. Doesn't get any easier. So if you want to go to a game, if you want to go to a show, if you want to go to a comedy show, a concert, you name it, they got you covered. You can search by venue. You can search by arena. You can search by the team. It does not get any easier. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, let's dive into the mailbag. Could you imagine Darren Waller's career if he played with Drew Brees, Mahomes, or Joe Burrow instead of Carr and Daniel Jones? I think more elite players should stop taking these massive contracts from bad teams that overpay because they suck and go to a place that will elevate them to new heights. I think that's easier said than done. When someone offers you millions of dollars, let's just say, you know, your team is offering you and you've never made any money, 30, 40, 50 million dollars guaranteed. And you're playing at a high level and that total contract is 80, 90 million dollars. And you're looking at yourself, well, I'm probably going to make 80, 90 million dollars. It's easy to go, well, I'll play this out another 2 years because I got to play out usually the year in which they, last year of my contract. And then they're usually going to franchise tag me if I'm a good player. So it's easier said than done. I know where you're coming from, but I think that's easier in theory than it is done in reality, and that's why it's never done in reality. I'm surprised the 49ers brought back Kyle Juszczyk. When they cut him, I thought it was justified. He's a 34-year-old, expensive, but what was the thinking behind it? Is it more based on intangibles? Yeah, I think it's hard to find that position, right? That they don't really exist in the NFL. That there aren't fullbacks. There aren't guys coming out of college that play that position. He knows the offense. He's a versatile player. He also, at this point in time, given that they've done a bunch of pay cuts, is a cheap player. And he took a discount because he was offered more, I think, to go to Pittsburgh. He values the 49ers. Right? He likes playing with McCaffrey. He likes Kyle Shanahan. He likes Purdy. Like that's Kittle's his guy. So there's a comfort level and cohesion just together. You know, I don't know. I don't have his total off the top of my head, but I think it's just a couple $1 million now. He's going to go down as the highest paid fullback in the history of the league.
Pro golfers drive for show, but they putt for dough. The easiest shot for you to make some dough, betting on this week's tournament at DraftKings Sportsbook. From the opening round through Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with live betting, player props, and so much more. I bet on golf every single week. Couple guys I like this week at the John Deere. Michael Kim. You can get plus 360 to top 10, obviously line subject to change, as well as Mark Hubbard, who has been playing well. You can get him at plus 400. So that means you bet $100, you win $360. You bet $100, you win $400. I like both those guys to be in the mix of top 10. If you want to sprinkle on them to win, would not blame you, like Michael Kim and Mark Hubbard this week at the John Deere. Here's something special for first-timers. DraftKings customers bet $5 to win $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Since you're I have a non-football question, I know you're a big Sopranos fan. Which Moments episode is the funniest to you? When I first got into the show, I anticipated it being super serious crime drama, which at times it is, but most part it's like a comedy. A classic moment for me is when John gets escorted away crying at his daughter's wedding and the conversation all the guys have afterwards. I do think the all-time episode is when they're in the woods freezing their ass off chasing that like Russian spy who is like got confirmed like 25 kills and they can't find him, they can't kill him, and it's just they have no cell service. To me that's got to be one of the more iconic moments in the show. I would say the best scene in the show is the intervention with Chrissy when they're all sitting around in his apartment, and it's just I've watched that scene on YouTube probably 50 times in my life. It's hard to beat. I mean, some of the comments by Paulie, I mean, it's pretty funny. Regarding the mailbag question about UFC, I had some additional thoughts. Not only is there a barrier to entry with pay-per-view, but the main card doesn't come on until 11 or 12 at night on the East Coast. Let's be honest, most people don't have the energy to stay up till 1 or 2 a.m. watching. Also, you're right. It's very niche. I'm in the military, and the UFC is very popular with us because of the violence. I would say a majority of Americans just don't have the stomach for it. I'm with you. I do think there was a moment in the last fight where the dude KO'd him. He hit the ground. I might have knocked himself out on the ground as well, and then the guy hammer cocked him to his face. I mean, it was like, Jesus. It's a very, very violent, whatever, 12 minutes. I guess 5 minute round, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, however long the fight lasts. I do think, though, humans are drawn to fights. Going back to like when we're kids in junior high and high school, if there's a fight, everyone surrounds it. It's just a natural instincts of human beings. But you could argue with how civilized culture has got, especially in America, how soft certain regions have gotten. They're not around fighting ever. So, like you said, it's going to turn certain people off. It's going to be too much for other people. There's just going to be people like me who I love violence. I mean, I miss it in the NFL. I miss fighting in the NBA. I'm drawn to violence. I'm drawn to sports, and I don't watch. So it's hard to get people's attention. It just is. Even people like me that should be in the demo. 40-year-old guy who watches sports and likes violence, and they can't get me to buy the pay-per-views. And I like Dana White. Julio Jones retired after the offseason and a great career had me thinking. There are only 3 wide receivers I'd have on my team over Julio: Rice, Moss, and Calvin Johnson. I have Julio as the 4th best wide receiver of all time. What do you think? Where would you put Julio? Probably a little rich for me. I think many people would say Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens was a more dominant player than Julio Jones. I would say, I mean, there are a lot of guys over the course of the last 25 years. Marvin Harrison was pretty elite, pretty unstoppable. I would say that Tyreek Hill, pretty elite, pretty unstoppable. I would say that trying else to think. It's a good question. I don't know. But to me, he's probably top 10 talent of all time. But it just in terms of production, I mean, when you look, he had some weird years where he didn't score touchdowns. I mean, Antonio Brown had a 6-year stretch where he was better than Julio Jones. I mean, Antonio Brown had one of the greatest 6-year stretches in the history of the league. But I'd say he's one of the great talents. He's one of the great stories of elite blue chip prospect, right? He was the number 1 overall recruit. He then becomes a top 6 or 7 draft pick. And then he goes on to become a Hall of Fame level career. I do think sometimes when these player podcasts, I saw a clip the other day. Does he do a podcast with Roddy White? I mean, both those guys are bitching and moaning about a lot of stuff. It's like, Julio, you were a great player, then you got old, and they got rid of you. Like, welcome to the league. How many of your teammates did they get rid of? They got rid of Matt Ryan. They got rid of basically every single guy you played with beside you and Matt Ryan before you both were discarded. They're always so offended when, like, yeah, we had a new coach come in and I called Arthur Blank and he's like, the coach is going to get to decide. He's like, bullshit, Arthur. No, Arthur Blank hired these guys. He's not a football guy. He's going to let them decide. And he's paid you a premium for your services. These players get so offended. Like, well, you know why? Because they're treated so well. They're paid premium amounts of money. They get everything handed to them. And then the moment they're not great anymore, it's like kind of, you see it with LeBron James right now. For the first time in LeBron James' career, it's like, yeah, we're not really worried about what you think. Like, we're not going through you. You don't have any leverage anymore. We have a new beautiful girl on the team now, and her name is Luca. And he's very offended by it. You could tell. We're going to weigh our options. LeBron, shut up. Take your $50 million, play for the Lakers. Welcome to the NBA. This happens to literally every player. And I think the great players really struggle with that transition of like, wait, you're not just kissing my ass, jerking me off, and tickling my taint? No, we're not anymore. we're over you. And sometimes I see these player podcasts. It's like, geez, these guys lived in a different world than the rest of the NFL. Because most NFL players are kind of like on their toes about stuff. Like at any moment, anything could go on.
We all have a bunch of credit cards, connections to hotels or airlines or a number of things. And I don't think we realize that those points and miles, they lose value when they collect dust. So think about this, a credit card with rewards that actually grows. Introducing the Gemini credit card. And with this credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. So every time you go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you go out for a night on the town, you earn instant rewards deposited straight into your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Go to Gemini.com/John to learn more and start earning today. Terms apply. Again, visit Gemini.com/JOHN now. Terms apply. The Gemini credit card is issued by WebBank. In order to qualify for the intro $200 crypto bonus, your application must be approved by June 30th, 2025. And spend $3,000 your first 90 days. Terms apply. Some exclusions apply to instant rewards in which rewards are deposited when the transaction posts. This content is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risk. For more details on rates, fees, and other Gemini credit card terms, see rates and fees. Go to Gemini.com/John, John, to learn more and start earning today.
I have a question about Justin Herbert. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like success during his rookie season may have raised the bar for incoming quarterbacks. Ever since his historic debut, it feels like teams expect their rookie quarterbacks to start right away in week one. When you look at a trend of rookie quarterbacks since Herbert, the expectations to start week one seem noticeably higher than they used to be when quarterbacks sat their first year to learn the new system. Yeah, listen, man, expectations. People have been drafting quarterbacks now for 6 to 7 years, hoping to find the next Patrick Mahomes. When I draft a player really high at quarterback, especially in the top, 10 picks, my expectations are high. Whether you're compared to Justin Herbert, whether you're compared to Patrick Mahomes, whether you're compared to Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, or Tom Brady, you're trying to hit a star quarterback. And fair or not, like the expectations are never like, yeah, it would be cool if he's Dak Prescott. Even though if you drafted a guy and he turned in a Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins, at pick 5, would it be ideal? No. But like, would you keep your job for a long time and have just a successful team? Potentially, yes. And I think the expectations for high draft picks are always really high when it comes to quarterbacks, especially with people starting right away. And the other expectation, like you said, is like people don't want people to sit. The Aaron Rodgers, the Jordan Love, that is not the norm. Even Patrick Mahomes sitting for a year is definitely not ever going to be the norm with rookie contracts, with how much these guys have played now in 7-on-7 and in college. People want to see these guys play. Should the NFL add overtime kickoff decision to the opening coin toss. For example, if you win the coin toss, you get to choose 3 options: kick, receive for the game; kick, receive for overtime; 3, field direction. This way, everyone knows ahead of time who gets the first ball first in overtime. So no team doesn't feel screwed after the coin toss. Also, teams could play more aggressively at the end of games if they knew they had to kick off in overtime. I don't hate this, but I don't think at the start of the game you're even thinking about overtime. Really, the decision to defer or not is based on the start of the second half, which there's still 30 minutes of football left. So I think that would be an element coaches wouldn't want to mess with. I think they would rather just kind of stay focused on the present and, at worst, the start of the second half. I don't hate the idea. I think you're actually kind of thinking outside the box here. But I think if you went to the owners' meetings and threw that kind of idea out there, it would get kicked back pretty fast. The Texans and Browns seem to be fully guaranteeing way more money than everyone else. There are only 2 teams to guarantee their second-round picks, and then Watson fully guaranteed with the Browns, and Stingley got $89 of $90 million guaranteed with the Texans. Do you think they're doing this on purpose to screw with everyone else's negotiations? If no one else's second-round picks, that'd be a huge blow. All the Cardinal media keeps bringing. I didn't see that they guaranteed their second-round picks fully guaranteed contract. I didn't see that. I do wonder, you could argue Derek Stingley giving him $89 million of $90 million guaranteed, because if I was a star corner, I'd be like, why is Justin Jefferson and Nick Bosa getting $125 million guaranteed and I'm only getting 80 or 90? Why wouldn't I get the same amount guaranteed as those guys? I play a premium position. I'm covering the highest paid guy in the league, right? The reason you give these pass rushers so much money is because they go, well, I'm going up against Lane Johnson, Trent Williams, Tristan Wirfs. These guys are making $30 million a year. If I'm beating them, why am I not getting $30 million a year? So if I'm Derek Stingley and I'm covering the guy making $30 million a year, why wouldn't I make $30 million a year, right? Why am I making 20? So I think it's a way to kind of actually give him a little less. But you're right, and it gives a shorter term contract, right? Like, what do they give him? 4 years, $90 million? What did they give Donnell Hunter 2 years ago? I think 2 years, $50 million and guaranteed 49 of it. So you actually keep yourself more flexible instead of giving like these 6 or 7 year deals. Maybe you'd have to ask Caserio. That's a good question, because I don't view the Texans and the Browns as the same. I mean, they gave Deshaun Watson $230 million to make sure that he joined the team. I don't know why they did it, honestly. That's a great question. Why isn't the Giants GM fired, especially after the Hard Knocks? He would be on the hot seat. But now, since Barkley won a championship with the Eagles, I'm surprised John didn't fire him already. Is it hard to find a proper GM? Even the NFL fan knows that it's a bad idea, and I doubt he would get another GM job. By the way, love the pod. Appreciate it. I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I think it's pretty clear the Giants ownership has hesitated when it came to making a major change. They want no part of it. So I would guess that that's a major reason, that they just don't want to. They don't want to fire anybody, because he doesn't want to go in a situation where he has to interview new people. That sucks. That is the last thing these owners want to do. They're printing money. Life's good. They all own yachts. They all own 7 houses all around the world. They've never had more money. And win or lose, they're still making the money. The last thing they want to do is spend all January interviewing a bunch of potential GMs. And then typically you got to listen to that guy to see what coach does he want to hire. That does suck. Now, you could argue, well, yeah, it sucks, but would you rather win? Of course. I think you just rather win with the guys you have, especially if you like them. But I don't think he has like naked pictures of any of these guys. How do you golf in Arizona in the heat? Do you golf in the middle of the day or go early and try to beat the heat? Listen, I don't understand. Like, it's hot. It's 110 degrees. You drink fucking water and Gatorade. Like, how could anyone, like, I've lived in the heat my whole life. I grew up, I'm actually down the street in a hotel because my brother and his kids were living at my mom's house because they're remodeling their house. So we stayed at a hotel down the street. I mean, we landed yesterday. It was 102 degrees in Davis, California, and it was humid. It sure felt humid to me. Like it's hot. So summers are hot. You play golf. It's not going to kill you. How could anyone function in 0 degrees? All you guys in the Midwest or the Northeast to live in the snow. Like you couldn't pay me to do that. So everyone's always like, how do you live in the heat? I don't know. You drink some water. You put on a hat. It's not that complicated. Okay, when you look at recent history, none of the offensive play calling head coaches hired in the past 5 years have won more than one playoff game. Yet CEO coaches like Sirianni, Dan Campbell, D'Amico Ryans, Dan Quinn have won multiple playoff games. It seems like there are more distractions now than ever to manage as a head coach. Long schedules, more weekday games, more primetime games, more international games. Social media and podcasts gives players an outlet. Analytics have contributed to the unconventional in-game decision-making. A lot of this is new over the last 5-ish years. Do you think expectations are too high for Ben Johnson, the Bears this year, given that he's a first-year head coach? Yeah, man, I think it's really, really hard to be a head coach, especially when your bread and butter is like calling the game. And that's why Ben Johnson, that's why Sean McVay, that's why Kyle Shanahan. And when you're young, you have a million things going on. Sometimes you get to go to a crappy team, right? You just get to go to a team that has no expectations. People just think it's going to suck, right? Like I'm going to win. I'm going to win 3 or 4 games. It's like, whatever. You win 6 or 7, everyone's happy. Then there's a guy like Ben Johnson who is just anointed the next great play caller. It's like next Mike Shanahan, next Mike Holmgren, next Andy Reid. And listen, he was incredible in Detroit. Well, he goes to a team whose expectation, I would say this year, anything less than 9, 10 wins is going to be a disaster. Like he went 7, 8, it's going to get weird. Like, and that's not a normal landing spot for a first-time head coach. So Godspeed. I'm with you. I think there's a lot going on. Like Sirianni is a good example. Young guy, ton of help, right? When he first got there, his 2 coordinators, Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, 2 head coaches. Now, how good they are as head coaches, I don't know, but like legit head coaching candidates and really good. Like Jonathan Gannon's a good leader. Shane Steichen's an excellent like offensive innovator. He's got Howie Roseman, the best GM. Like that's Ben Johnson's got Ryan Poles, which seems like a nice guy. No clue if he knows what's going on. He's got he's the offensive play caller. I guess Dennis Allen's his defensive coordinator. That will help. I hear you. I've been beating this drum for a long time. I was wondering why some NFL organizations, the head coach outranks the GM, but in others, it doesn't. How does the hierarchy work? Doesn't the head coach make more than GMs? There can't be many teams where the GM makes more than the head coach. Maybe Philly, but Sirianni just got a raise. So, I mean, listen, Howie probably should make 15 or 20 million, but let's say he's making 10. That'd be one of the highest paid GMs. If Sirianni's making 10, he's lower half of the NFL and head coach salary. So, or definitely, he wouldn't be in the top 12 or 14. A guy just won a Super Bowl. So I think it just gets to money. It's also in the contract. So, like when Kyle Shanahan was hired, he gets final say on everything. Now, that doesn't mean like in a draft room, he might let John Lynch do it, but it is in his contract. If he wants something, he gets it. And that's how it works with a lot of these. Like when Ben Johnson got hired, Ben Johnson had all the leverage. So if Ben Johnson wanted in his contract, he'd get basically whatever he wanted in his contract. Say Mike Vrabel hired in New England. Well, who do you think had all the juice? Liam Cohen. Remember, they were desperately trying to hire him. So sometimes coaches, even if they don't have experience like Vrabel or Pete Carroll or whatever, that a guy like Liam Cohen has leverage because you're desperate to hire him. So he has all the leverage of like, I need this in my contract. I get the final say. That's where I think that happens a lot. It's not like there's not a set hierarchy like there are in a lot of your guys' jobs that, let's just say in a corporate structure, like if you went to Chase Bank or you went to Oracle or you went to some of these major companies, like if you were at a retailer like Safeway and you were, or a alcohol company, a distributor, there's very clear org chart. The org chart sometimes in football, it's like, well, who had all the juice? Like if I'm desperately trying to hire, let's say, Adam Peters to be my GM, well, if he's hired before the coach and I had a bunch of leverage, if I'm Adam Peters, I get it in my contract that I get to run the draft and I get to run free agency. And maybe I get to pick the final 53. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't let my coach do a lot of that, but it's in my contract that I do. And it's just based on which one of those guys, when you hired them, either had the leverage / used the leverage to make sure that was written in stone. Now, ideally, like John Schneider was hired by Pete Carroll. By the middle of their run, like Pete Carroll relied on him a lot. Brett Veach was hired by Andy Reid, right? Well, Andy trusts Brett and lets him operate. So, Sean McVay makes more money than Les Snead. McVay lets Les Snead pick the players. Now, here's the other thing. Even if you are an equal with the coach, you don't want to pick a player. Let's say I'm scouting and I love this badass linebacker named John Middlekauff. I'm like, this guy, John Middlekauff. What? Is this Patrick Willis 2.0? And my coach hates him. He's like, I don't like him. I don't think he fits my scheme. Maybe he meets him at the combine and it's like turned him off. Like, I don't like this cat. Well, even if you love the player, are you going to force that on your coach knowing he hates him? That's not a fun way to work. So I think a lot of that stuff works itself out. So I think overall there's not a set org chart. The only org chart in football that stays the same is whenever the GM and head coach is hired, the coaching staff and the scouting staff are both under those guys. My bad if you already answered this question, but who would you say is the greatest college prospect ever? And if there was an all-time draft, would that same prospect go first overall like a quarterback? I think many would argue that Elway was the best prospect of all time. I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4". He could run. He had a huge arm, and he was a Stanford intellect guy whose dad was a coach. I think it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed to call John Elway the greatest quarterback prospect of all time. And if you're the greatest quarterback prospect of all time, that means you're the greatest prospect of all time. Because even if I'm trying to think, what's funny is some of the great tackles in the history of the league, like Jonathan Ogden. Let's use him as an example. Jonathan Ogden. I think he was like the 12th pick in the draft. He was a 4th pick. I'd say Jonathan Ogden would be pretty high. 9-time first or second team All-Pro. I mean, guys like that. But Trent Williams, Jonathan Ogden, Lane Johnson's going to be a first bound Hall of Famer. A lot of these tackles, they were the 4th overall pick. So it's hard for me to call some of these tackles the greatest prospect of all time if they were the 4th overall pick. I'd imagine Reggie White, a little before my time, but he's probably going to be one of the great prospects of all time. Lawrence Taylor would probably be up there, but Reggie White was technically, he was in the supplemental draft. I forget the exact details on that one, but he was the 4th overall pick. Lawrence Taylor was the 2nd overall pick. So, I'd say Elway'd be hard to beat. I'd say the 2 best quarterback prospects in my life would be Elway, Peyton, and then a lot of these other guys, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White played in the USFL. I'll tell you who was a fucking sweet prospect. Von Miller was pretty sweet. He went 2 overall. You briefly mentioned it when you were on with Colin a few weeks ago that you spent some time in San Sebastian when you were younger. Wondering what your thoughts were on the place, if so. I went back a few years ago for my 30th and was blown away by the food. What's your thoughts on international fixtures, even possibly future teams in Europe? As a European fan, I can say for certain that I would I wouldn't like any team based outside the America, even in London. If you're a European fan, in my opinion, you don't want to watch one of the established 32 American teams. You want to watch the other based in Europe. It's a good question. When I went to San Sebastian, that's almost 20 years ago now. What's funny is we went to the beach. I was there for like a month. Went to the beach like every single day. It was incredible. The water was warm. The food. I just remember there being a lot of tapas. I remember eating tapas every day. Was drinking a lot. Would go for runs along the beach. Yeah, we went to class, I think, like twice a week, which was stupid. I don't remember anything that was said. We actually went out drinking one night with the teacher who didn't speak great English, but he was a cool guy. I just remember screwing around there. I didn't surf, but it's technically that beach, like, has decent surf. I just remember swimming and going to the beach, and I've never been more tan in my life. It's absolutely beautiful there. I remember being hot and humid, but it's been a long time. And that was a time too, we didn't have cell phone with a camera. So I don't even have that many pictures. I have a couple that are on like a buddy, probably someone else that I went with Facebook page back in the day. It's like a completely different time in life. I remember having a Nokia flip phone with me so I could like call my parents. But it was fun. Not gonna lie. Question for the pod. I'm a diehard App State football fan and truly believe on any given Sunday we could beat anyone in the country. That being said, I realize we are tremendously outclassed in talent with the portal and turned G5 schools into breeding grounds for Power 5. What does the future of G5 football look like to you? And is there a G5 school from their own league? Is there any world where the G5 schools form their own league? It kind of hit me when we were talking about Simmons the other day because someone asked a question about Jason Kelsey comparing Josh Simmons to the best, a prospect with his physical capabilities like a Jason Peters or a Trent Williams. And then I didn't realize this because, again, I'm not living and dying in this world anymore. I just assumed if you're just starting left tackle for Ohio State that you went to Ohio State out of high school and you were just some blue chip guy, right? Like you're CJ Stroud or you're Jeremiah Smith or you're even Caleb Downs, right? Alabama, Ohio State, blue chipper. Simmons was at San Diego State. I mean, a couple years ago, San Diego State was pretty good. UNLV had a moment last year. Obviously, you guys had some moments. Those days are done. When you get a Josh Simmons now, when you get at San Diego State a legitimate NFL prospect, I got my start at Fresno State. We had Ryan Matthews when I got there. Ryan Matthews was a top 15 pick at running back. The Chargers drafted Ryan Matthews to literally replace LaDainian Tomlinson, who's one of the greatest players ever. Ryan Matthews, at point in time in his childhood, grew up in a car. His mom and him lived out of a car. It was an incredible story. And Ryan has gone on now to everyone that's ever met Ryan loved him. He's gone on to coach, I think, high school football at Bakersfield. Ryan Matthews was so loyal to Coach Hill because he did not academically qualify when he was being recruited by the big boys. And then last second to get into Fresno State, he academically qualifies. And Pete Carroll, and this is like 07, in the peak of the USC dynasty, offers Ryan Matthews a scholarship. And Ryan says no and goes to Fresno State. Well, maybe he would have still done that. But after a year or two, the NIL, he would have been offered too much money and he wouldn't have been able to stay at Fresno State. And financially, people would have had to look at him and said, bro, you got to take $800,000 to go play at SC or play at Oregon. No one would, Texas, wherever. And I think that's where you just don't, even if the guy is loyal, it's really, really hard to turn that. And no one would even blame you. The NFL has always had an edge over other sports in part because the regular season games carry far more weight than any other league. Is the NFL diluting its product by adding an 18th game? There's a reason NBA ratings are average. Their product is watered down. Would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, I mean, listen, the NFL product at this point in time is a little watered down based on they play on Thursday Night Football. They've added the extra game. They force games in constantly on short weeks. It is not the same as it was 20 years ago, and the league has never been more popular. Now, part of that is still like, even if I force a game in on Thursday, there still is a lack of inventory. And the greatest thing the NFL has going for it is the setup of the sport is built for short attention spans. It's literally built for modern day people because there's only one game a week for your team. And in basketball, especially baseball, there are just a ton of games, but there always have been a ton of games. But 20, 30, 40 years ago, our attention spans were shorter. We were allowed to be bored. Think about this. When was the last time I remember thinking all the time when I was a kid, like, I'm bored. I was just swimming with my nephews. Do you know what they're probably never, ever going to say in their entire life? I'm bored. Which is, you could argue, sad because I think some of the most creative people, some of the best ideas have come when you just get to spend time with your thoughts and think and create. Maria was telling me something yesterday that she saw on Instagram about, scrolling. I don't even know if this is true, but has some impact on part of your brain that helps with problem solving. And I wonder if that's true because I was actually taking the trash out the other day and there was like a rip in the trash bag and we were both looking at each other in the kitchen and there's just like coffee spilling all over and I just froze. It's like, what do I do? She's like, I don't know, run outside. And I was like, does my problem solving part of my brain not work anymore because I've scrolled too much? I hope not, but I can't discount that possibility. But overall, listen, I think the 18th game, I'm not for it. I wasn't for the 17th game, but it's coming. It's inevitable. So I don't know what else to tell you. I was rewatching The Sopranos, and there was a scene where Sylvia steps in as the acting boss while Tony is in the hospital. He tells his wife he's better as a number two, and I really believe that's a real thing. Some people thrive in that role, and putting them out can be risky. When coaching moves, the with coaching moves the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of former head coaches go back to coordinator roles. I think this could possibly raise the quality of football. This season alone, we've got Saleh, Dennis Allen, Eberflus, all these guys, Josh McDaniels, Chip Kelly. Curious to hear your take. Yeah, you could argue though. I mean, what if Ben Johnson you know, fails at his position, taking over as a head coach, leaving as a coordinator? I think there's always ebb and flows in this business in terms of people being a head coach, people being a coordinator. It kind of goes in circles, but you could argue definitely from a defensive coordinator standpoint, Saleh being a defensive coordinator is a plus. Eberflus being a defensive coordinator in theory is a plus. Dennis Allen for sure. Robert Saleh, Dennis Allen are big additions to the league who defensively, I mean, it's a shitty coach league. So there's a small percentage of guys that know what they're doing. I think in fairness, it's hard to coach defense. The rules are not on your side. It is basically officiated against you. So you have to be so freaking good. There's always been a huge advantage with, great defensive coaches because it's like a great combination of motivation, of like the academic schematic coaching, uh, developing a scheme, teaching your players that with like a level of craziness and violence that offense is it's basically just outthinking you, playing chess. There is a level of like being kind of a crazy asshole on defense, which is always resonated with the consumer, with fans watching defensive coordinators, like watching Kirby Smart or Nick Saban kind of address the team. That's what made Belichick kind of unique, is he was like this academic, but he was a defensive guy. Um, but he wasn't like a huge, Belichick wasn't giving rah-rah speeches, right? Like Tomlin or the Harbaugh can. So I think a rah-rah speech is a big part of a defensive coordinator for most of them, not named Belichick. But I like where you're coming from there.